What's going on, guys? How you doing? Beyond the Light, stage part 5. I think we're into signals. Yeah, we're heavy 80s right now. Gonna be talking about synthesizers a bunch, I bet. Let's check it out. Bam.
Moving pictures was a mixed blessing to me in retrospect, for me personally in my life. A lot of strange people came out of the woodwork. There was so much attention on us at that time that was transitory.
You know, generally, we were pretty private, and I think moving pictures was the turning point when there was a lot more pressure from fans and from people wanting a piece of you or believing they were connected to you in some other way.
There was a time when we first started getting recognized that I got a little touchy about it. And I remember I started thinking about this thing about fame and how you deal with it. That was kind of an epiphany. And I said to myself, I'm going to go where I want to go. And if somebody comes up to me and he's nice to me and wants an autograph, I got time for him. It's no big deal.
Getty, right?
That's right.
Oh my God, that's Getty?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, that's it.
No problem.
That's it.
Oh my God.
One is to... One is to Sean.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The first one's to Sean.
Oh my God.
And the next one's to Troy.
Oh my God.
That's what I promised. I'm so sorry. We want his too. Yes, he's the leader of the group.
I can walk around the city and get recognized from time to time. Getty more so. He's got a very distinctive look about him. But generally, people are very polite. They don't want too much from you. I understand that these are your fans that just love what you do. There's been a moment in their lives where your music has been so important to them that to take a couple of minutes and just chat, shake a hand or a hug or something, it's not a big deal.
I remember when I met them, I was just struck by Geddy Lee and Lifeson's friendship. It seemed like they had a real deep bond, real playful and sort of goofy. Just seemed like there was a lot of joy there, a lot of genuine fun. And then I turned the corner, and then I saw the master, Neil Peart. He had sort of a different vibe going, just as focused, but a brewing intensity, little wisps of darkness.
And Neil has a real struggle with fans, and it's not a personal thing. It's a shyness thing. He's not able to be as relaxed around strangers as Alex or I am. You know, he doesn't mean to hurt anyone's feelings by it. He's not trying to be rude. He's just not comfortable.
Okay, I was the world's biggest Who fan as a kid. I never dreamed of trying to find their hotel and knocking on their door or interfering in their lives in any way. I don't understand. I love being appreciated. Being respected is awfully good. But anything beyond that just creeps me out. You know, any sense of adulation is just like so wrong.
I got a chance to go meet Neil Peart, and I got brought into a room and I started to tell him, hey, I'm the hugest fan ever, and I got sort of the Neil Peart cold shoulder, and the security guard removed me from the room. It was a weird, uncomfortable situation. I love Neil Peart even though he totally blacklisted me. But I would understand, like, if I was Neil Peart and Ike walked in the room, I would probably want to remove me too.
Yeah, but Alex and Geddy wouldn't treat you like that.
Man, but very, you know,
there's
his
a way
line, I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited
I'm not on their
friend.
level, but
That's
I've dealt with
people have a fantasy. I don't want to trample on it.
And there's
but
a
I
way
also
to
don't
deal
want
with
live it.
people.
And people can think that I'm antisocial or a sourpuss or anything. It's really not. It doesn't make me mad. It embarrasses me. The other guys, you know, are obviously comfortable with it, and they do the meets and greets every night, and then fine. So, you know, they can do it.
1, 2, 3.
I am so appreciative of our fans. I bless their hearts every single day. But they're hard to analyze as a group because they're so different. We have hardcore fans, the old fans that have been there from the beginning, and they're usually male, and they are really intense.
In the early stages, it was very young, almost 100% male. And then as the years went by, it remained 100% male.
The chicks did not really dig it, you know. I still don't throw on Caress of Steel that often with my wife around.
Tonight is my 113th Rush show. The last time I missed a show anywhere in Europe was on the Signals tour.
Tonight will be the 7th on this tour. Been to 2 in America, 1 in Canada. Did all 6 in the last UK tour.
My name's Pete. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I just had my 100th show in Stockholm.
Rush fans are like NASCAR fans. They ain't going anywhere, man. They're brand loyalty. They are a cult band. When you go to a Rush concert, there ain't anybody leaving until the song is over. They're waiting for their favorite part. They're nudging their friend. They're going, look, he played it perfect. They're riveted to the band.
The band have that relationship with their audience, where their audience really feel like the Rush lyrics communicate to them, make them feel like their experience is heard.
I have this memory of sitting in the basement with my mother. I actually said to her, I want to play you a song. And it was very hard to ever get my parents' attention or anything, so it was like a big deal. Will you please sit here and I want to play you a song? And I played Entre Nous, and I gave her the lyric sheet because I wanted her to understand that this song was connecting with me on some level. When I was 16 years old, I wasn't as emotionally open. I was very withdrawn. So something about that song allowed me to say, somehow this song is almost like it's written for me.
Music when you're growing up is like such a strong part of like, what do you like? What's your deal? What's your identity? Right. Rush seemed to be just a complete added dimension of not being just obsessed with girls and hair and shit like that. You know what I mean? They seem to be kind of smart. And of course, fancying myself as a really smart kid, I was like, oh, that's my deal.
Not so clearly charted, it's really just a question of your honesty. Yeah, your honesty. Glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. Yeah, and when you're hearing like lyrics like that are so earnest and sincere, talking about honesty in art and asking some of the tougher intellectual questions with that great music behind it, they really offered something in rock that was in short supply.
And plus, they sang in French. On Circumstances, plus c'est la même chose. That was pretty tricky. You didn't hear that on any Kiss records. It's like the dude is singing in French now. I can't even figure out his English.
It wasn't for everybody, you know, and it wasn't necessarily cool. You were kind of like a Rush geek, you know, a music nerd, a kind of nerd, and it was sort of nerdy music, I suppose.
You listen to Subdivisions and it just seemed like exactly my life. You know, I was that kid who was watching the car drive away with all the cool kids, going off to a party that I wasn't invited to. It was just nice to feel like there was a rock song out there that spoke to my experience, trying to be cool and worrying about being cast out of a group of friends if you weren't cool. I wasn't very cool, but luckily I had a group of friends that was equally not cool.
I lived in a housing development, suburbia, backyard barbecues, and a lot of the stuff that I think most American kids could relate to. I remember watching the video and I'm like, damn, that represents me right there. This one person walking around, not really being in a group. It seemed like it was this person that nobody really could relate to.
The thing I loved about Neil was he took very complex metaphysical themes and he was able to put them in a way that everybody could understand. And whether he was ripping off Shakespeare or he was quoting his own Hart, he was able to do it in a way that never felt snobby or always felt like he was in the room talking to you.
Words can carry different freight for different people, of course, lyrics, but those who do have the sensitivity to pay the kind of attention to lyrics that I put into them,
I'm not saying
it's wonderful to connect that way, to feel that you're not playing down to anyone. We've always had the impression that people are just as smart as we are, so if we can figure this stuff out, they can too, you know, and we're not being that terrible damning word pretentious. We're not pretending anything. This is really what turned us on this year, you know. Lyrically, it's always been a reflection of my times and the times I observe, but everyone is a reflection of me.
Great look here. Great look.
We could have gone in and done moving pictures all over again, but we're too curious, we're too dissatisfied with where we're at, and just because we got successful doesn't mean we're going to stop. And that's the motivation. We have to find the better Rush.
There was a big shift happening on signals. The keyboards were becoming more and more important, from Geddy's standpoint, that is. And also, one of the biggest things at that point for me was Neil getting into the electronic drum kit. Didn't really appeal to me. I wanted to still have that element of the basic acoustic band.
We'd been working with Terry for 10 years at that point, and we really felt the need to expand and see what it was like to work with other people. And it was a very tough transition because we were so close. Really, Terry was like the fourth member of the band.
It was Neil who broke the news to me on the bus, and he said, just think of it like a, boyfriend and girlfriend. They want to split up for a while and have a break from each other. I was surprised because I figured we would figure it out and we'd move to the next level. But it was time for a change. And I didn't really want to do an electronic band, which is where I thought it was going.
Across the cities of the plain, there's no swimming in the heavy water, no singing
bass
in
tone
the
is
acid
almost as if
rain.
he's playing with the pick. It's wild.
Red alert.
To be honest with you, I'd never really heard of Rush in England. I was a pop producer, so I was kind of bemused when I got the call to come and produce them. I was coming from that whole British 80s music scene. I was trying to bring them into line with what I perceived to be the contemporary modern pop music, the new technology, the new keyboard sounds.
We all loved the music of that time. We were young enough to, and we didn't have any protective nature of what Rush was, that it could never be allowed to be influenced by new wave music or could never use an African rhythm. There was no such thing as that doesn't suit Rush. Those words have never been uttered.
Ragged lines of ragged gray.
Still look good.
Skeletons they shuffle away. Shouting odds and smoking guns.
Always sound great, right? I'm not commenting on that at all. They always sounded great, even at the beginning.
Synthesizers and technology became a way of sparking your creativity. I liked it because my need to write melodies is more satisfied writing on a keyboard.
Yes.
As a songwriter, you're always looking for an angle to give you something fresh.
Coming from a trained keyboard background, you always felt kind of left out in the rock world because keyboards really weren't that cool. Rush was one of those bands that the way they started integrating synths seemed wildly exciting to me. And wow, this can actually fill the role that what a guitar player would have done. Eats up the mid-range rhythm section space. I'd be hard-pressed to think of someone else who's done it like that.
Once the keyboards and the shorter songs became more of their sound, that's when I kind of moved on to other things.
I didn't like it, and I still really don't like it that much. And Geddy would spend a lot of time on the keyboard, and as a bass player, I love the bass. And so when my favorite bass player is playing the keyboards, I'm not that psyched about it.
Well, I love the idea of the keyboards. When we first started, I think as that part of our sound developed, there were times where we
like the bass
just got on the wrong track.
It's just a
Alex
tool,
and I had some
right?
real disagreements about how profound the keyboard should be. But Power Windows is a really important record because it was the final and essential blending of keyboards and guitar to me for Rush.
With Power Windows, I found it really, really difficult to work around the way the keyboards were developing. Why am I looking for a different place?
Right.
I shouldn't be looking for a different place. What's going on with these keyboards? You know, they're not even real. It's not even a real instrument.
I mean, I get it. But it's no different than what he was talking about on Snakes and Arrows, or was it Vapor Trails? On Vapor Trails, where Geddy's playing more quarterly, and he was talking about it made him have to find a different place and figure out how to play different. He was playing more single note
I
things.
love the synthesizers, and I actually think it's just as important as any of their other work. The ultimate thing that people were saying was they kind of moved somewhat away from the rock, and they kind of got a little bit more in the middle of what they did.
Yeah.
To me, Rush middle of the road is still somebody else's left field.
There are certain periods of Rush that are more universal than other periods. Now, you could say on the one hand that maybe they're better records, Maybe that's the best Rush.
Sure.
Moving pictures got us into a much broader world of rock fans. And when there was a shift, we lost some of those people. But we realized after time that there was a core of our fan base that was as curious as to where we were going as we were. And those are the ones that have sustained us, you know, through all these years.
And I can't fault them for not wanting to be a prog rock band for another 15 years. They had different periods. That's what makes them interesting.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, a bunch of these clips I've seen, you know, some of them, not all of them, right? Yeah, I just remember that interview where Alex was talking about, I'm pretty sure it was Vapor Trails. It may have been Snakes and Arrows, but I think it was Vapor Trails, where he was saying that, like, Geddy, how he was finishing My Favorite Headache. They came in and they did Vapor Trails. He was approaching the bass different. He was doing a lot more chordal stuff. It made him have to rethink, reimagine the guitar and his place and what they were doing and the sound. This is not any different. It's just now, I mean, I get how the keys take up more space, right? It takes up more. It kind of overlaps more with a guitar than a bass does. But still, I mean, it's still conceptually the same thing to me. To me, it's still the same thing. Okay, well, you need to think differently. Maybe you need to utilize... I mean, I think, first of all, I think that you did fine. Power Windows is great. But, you know, this is where you need to start thinking out of the box. Maybe I need to start using different effects. Let me mess around with delays. Let me mess around with a phaser. Let me mess around with maybe, different distortions or kind of sounds or whatever. But that's what I would start trying to do. Like, okay, forget the instrument that I play. What's missing here? Okay, well, can I fill that role? That's all. That's it. You know, what's missing here? No different than Tim Comerford. You know, he's like, once Geddy is playing keys, my favorite bass player is playing keyboards, not bass, then I'm not really into that. It's like, okay, well, you're not really into their music then, huh? Because it's then you're more about just bass, and that's fine. Okay, fine. But to me, it's like just music, right? It's all just the overarching thing. It's like, yeah, okay, bass is cool. And you see, you know, like maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me, you know, because you guys will send me things or whatever, like about some bass player, and I'll be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm not that kind of bass player. I don't care about, you know, I mean, I remember when A Show of Hands came out. I'm talking Victor Wooten now. I remember when A Show of Hands came out and I got it, and I was like, what the? This is 4 guys. This is four guys. This is 4 takes. This is for all of it. But no, it's one guy, one take, one, like, you know, and there are dudes that are like, and ladies, there are people that are super into that stuff, that like intense bass stuff. And that's really cool. I've checked it out. I was into it for a minute, but that's not me. That's not what I'm not into that kind of stuff, really, for me. I can appreciate it, but I prefer bands and songs and collaboration and singer-songwriter stuff, you know, just songs, you know. I prefer that kind of stuff. So that is music. Bass is my instrument in how I, you know, in all of that. But if I'm writing or something like that, they're talking about keyboards, yeah, I'll write on the keyboard. I'll write on a bass. I'll write on a guitar. I'll write with my voice. It's all just, you're just writing. That's different, you know, and then that becomes the music, and then you arrange within that. Okay, the bass this will be the bass part, or these are the changes, and this is, well, let's come up with a guitar part. Let's come up with a keys part. This is the rhythm. This is, you know, what the drums can do, etc., 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 etc. So this is cool. This is cool. I saw that whole last clip. I've seen that before. I feel like now the cool stuff is about to end because of where we're about to be. But hopefully they just power through it and get us to Vapor Trails. Some of it I'm sure will be cool. Counterpart stuff will probably be cool. I'm sure there'll be cool stuff within the next section of this whole thing. But I just hope they don't harp on Hold Your Fire forever. All right. Part 6 coming up. I'll catch you in the next video.